Okay, here we are at the after lunch part of the day. So after lunch, you need a very energetic person to start it. So between our three external users, it's Pierre Dionne from Hydro-Québec. Pierre works at energy, selling and trading floor of Hydro-Québec since 2001. You're an energy transaction advisor? Yeah. Wow. He produces some weather forecasts, load consumption, wind and solar energy, but spend more time in R&D than in actual forecasting. So he will present how the MSC Datamart grid data are used in operation of energy selling and trading floor. So if you would join me and welcome Pierre. Viens parler dans le micro pour nos 100 personnes en ligne.
Okay.
Ouais, c'est bon?
So Hydro-Québec is quite a big company, about 20,000 people, and I'll be presenting what I'm doing as a meteorologist in the part of the company that sell energy to the excedent energy to the United States or Ontario and there's other meteorologists that work at Hydro-Québec, and at the end I'll briefly say how they use the MSC data also. So just the presentation, I'll just say what's the trading floor, where I'm working, to give you the context of the data and how the energy market work. So what is it's important, it's really the load forecast, is the consumption, the forecast that is done is the consumption of energy of the market that we do. And we have to do some temperature forecast and also wind and solar production. And this is where I use basically the Datamart data. It's for wind and solar energy. And so the mission of where the group I work is really optimize the sale of the energy. So the energy market, the price of energy really change a lot from time to time. And in the long run, this is the last year, how much energy we sold. And it's there's some year like 2004, there was not a lot of energy available. It depends on the water in the dam, and that first they have to serve the Quebec province. And we sell the excedent energy. So that year we didn't have a lot, but when there's not a lot of energy to sell, we have to find the best period, the time where the energy is the highest price. So part of the job is to select the period to sell it. And when, like last year, there was a historic high of the amount of energy we sell, but since we sell all the time, the average price is much lower. So part of the job is to say when is the best time to sell it. And so how does it work, the selling of the energy? Well, first, sometimes we sell a part of it to ensure some revenue at the beginning of the year, long time in advance, but it's a small percentage. Most of the energy is sold on the day-ahead market. It's a kind of a bidding process. All the producers, there's a different producer, they said they will say what is the lowest price that you're willing to sell your energy. And on the other side, the distributor of energy, they said, what's the highest price you're willing to pay? So both, everybody put their bid, secret bid, a day in advance. And those who are responsible of distributing their energy, they must have the total amount of energy, otherwise there won't be electricity for some users. So what they do a basket of different pricing to make sure they reach the load, but they do the basket of bidding to try to have it the lowest price as possible. So in the bidding process, there's an hour limit. Everybody put their bid, and there's different costs, like a coal, there's a cost of the fuel. They don't want to sell and lose money, so because they have to pay for the fuel. It's for instance, they said they're not the coal they're willing to sell at 45, but they will not sell at 40. So their highest price is 45. The gas, the price of the gas really depend. It changed from day to day, but on that day it was $30. So they said we're willing to sell up to that price. So once everybody put their bid, the bidding and the buying curve kind of join at one place, and this is what will set the price of the day. Like all the bid, right, in this case, it's at 1,200 megawatt. The price set will be $30. It's so those who produce electricity very high price will not sell it simply, so they won't lose money. And those who produce money that produce electricity at a lower price, they will be taken. And for like a hydro, like we can bid whatever we want. But if we would have bid, let's say, for $40, we would simply not have sold and their energy on that time, and we would have missed a sale. And if we put, let's say, we bid at $5, we would have the possibility of selling under the cost that we want to sell and not optimizing the long-term. So the long-term sale over a year, we would have sold too low because there would be other time that we could have sold higher. So there's a kind of process of optimization like that. And it's the trader who determine the price they put, and they put different price, different hour of the day. And that's a day in advance. And the load in real time might not be exactly 1,200. In this case, there's still some adjustment a few hours before, depending on if the weather is let's say in summer, warmer or cooler than what was expected. So there's still some sale an hour before to adjust the energy. So right now, this was last year, so most of the markets is really close to the borders. It's where we have interconnection to sell the energy. But we can also go through some other market and sell it at a little farther. And we can also, we don't have to deliver to be on the market. We can also buy and sell without delivering. And right now we're active in some other market, like MISO, which is the center of the United States, SPP. And we will start to do in Texas. So I start to do some forecasts for Texas. And so this is about the region that we cover. So what is influencing the energy price? It's really, the first one is really the load, which depend on temperature for cooling or for heating, and also the state of the economy. There's power plant availability, because all the power plant, they have to be like more, there's a period where they have to be not repair, but there's maintenance. And normally they do the maintenance when the price is lower. They will do it in shoulder month in April or October. So the total amount of power plant is not the same all the season, except when peak season, they are normally all available. They try to do the maintenance to make sure they are there when it's counting. There's also some power line constraints sometimes. And like here, for taking out energy of Quebec, if the temperature is higher than 30 degrees, the line kind of goes lower, and the transit of the electricity have to be a little less during this time. So this is also an important part to know. And also the fuel price. Fuel price will depend also on the temperature. The fuel is not only used to do electricity, it's also for heating. Like in New England in winter, sometimes there's not enough pipeline to send all the gas, the natural gas that they want for the power plant. So the price can really go up, and the price of electricity follow it and go up. So we have to be ready to sell energy in that time. Okay, so that's the same. So the product that I give to the trader to help them make their decision, it's it's temperature forecast for major city. And since the city is where the population is, it's more point forecast than grid forecast for the temperature that is used. And we input we input all the temperature we get. We use the European model. Well, we have two sources of model output statistic for the European model. We have the Canadian model. We use a North American ensemble forecast and so we enter all the forecasts, and what we archive them, and we look at which one are the best and which one we should use, and so this is And this is one part. The most important thing, in fact, is the load forecast. The load forecast it's influenced by temperature, but it's also the holiday, the dew point for the cooling. It's really it takes more time when it's more humid. It takes more power needed when it's humid. So the temperature is really important. So to find a relation between weather and load, we have a big database, about 15 years of data. We have some yearly parameter, and we supposed to develop the relation that we could forecast exactly the weather. So we input the real data in the database, and we optimize the prediction in the development cell, file, and then we put it when in the forecast. When we do operation, we put the relation and we put the forecast instead. Right now we're using some regression, but I'm trying to use a new technique of artificial intelligence to make it better. Right now I have input all my value, normalized value, into some recent artificial intelligence process, and the results were not that good, not as good as what I have right now, but I think I should use the physics that I used there before giving it to the artificial intelligence. But right now it was without success, but I think it will be sooner. The model worked better than AI at this time, but it's a development process. Yeah. And the load during the day is very low at night and very high at day. So what we can do is to buy at night when it's very the price is low, and resell the same energy during the day. So giving the load, it's really helped the people take the decision to do their work properly, and they do the trading. It's all electronic, but some do it long term in advance. They can sell also by the phone. With some broker, they talk with broker to do this. The other thing that influence the price is the wind farm production. Wind farm production, it's by contract, and the contract, it's it was done to help the pool are buying all the energy. So this energy is some energy that will be out of the market. So the main thing is to compute the wind farm correctly, and also the solar forecast. So for the wind and the solar, this is where we use the Datamart data. We first start, I just noticed this morning it was 2006, and we start 2005, so there was no Datamart at the time. So we had a private contract with CMC to get the data point at the wind farm. And in the state, there's a lot of data. So it was a lot of wind farm, so it was getting really complicated to always found them to say, there's a new farm. Normally we were doing the change every 6 months, but there was some wind farm put there every day almost, and there's about 1,000 right now point for which we do forecasts. So what we take from the Datamart, we take, right now there's a 80-meter wind that is very good. This is the place where the wind turbine are. Before there was the first 2 ETA model that we have to find the height and with interpolation, but right now we have that. We look at the temperature, and we also look at the precipitation. We take the precipitation rate. There's some icing and some snow that get on the wind turbine, and it's slowing down the production when there's some of when this happens. So we do some regression to limit a little the production of the wind turbine when there's some precipitation. Or the rain, we don't do anything, but the snow, freezing rain. So we get these 3 fields from the Datamart. And so the forecast for each is the wind power. It's a function, the number of wind turbine there is, but it's a function of a wind speed, and the function of the wind speed is it's not linear. It's have to be a point where to make the turbine start, and it's really increasing. And then it's reached a plateau. For different turbines, we have different, they're not exactly the same, so we have function depending on which company make the turbine. So our function to forecast the power, it's the wind speed. Temperature has an influence. Temperature and elevation, it's the density of the air, so there's a small function, there's a function of that. And we have a loss, and the type is simply to put the right wind function. And after that, we forecast at each wind farm. So we do some zone, some state, or some market grouping, and then we have graphic, and we send email to the trader. And I even receive email on my phone when I'm in the weekend when I'm away to see my forecast. And the forecasts are archived, and all the forecasts after that we do some linear regression to improve the wind turbine forecast. Some of the market we have by power plant, like Ontario, it's good. They give the data every hour for each power plant, so we can calibrate by power plant. But for most of the market, we only have the old groups, the old region, so we calibrate with the total region. So more in detail how we do it. To get the data from the Datamart is really simple. Like I was listening to a talk this morning, I see that it's the previous century technology. I use the Windows task scheduler to start a Visual Basic job. And I use Wayget it's easy to get the data. So this is how it's simply the task scheduler that works on a PC, so any PC can go get the data from the Datamart. And then for the interpolation, I use a program called dgrib, which was done by NWS, the Meteorological Data Lab of MWS, and it was used to view their forecast that was in grib. So I put the link there. But what it does, it takes the grid and it do a bilinear interpolation. So it's simply, I can take out the data to interpolate at the lat long point. And the command is really simple. It's just you run the program, dgrib, you put the grid fill, and I have a small function of the date because that's the only variable that is there. And then you can interpolate, and you put the station list with all the name or the code of each wind farm, and you input that in a file. After that, that would give me a file that with all the wind farm, what was the grid point value interpolate at this point. So this is what I get. I got a lot of text file. It's the same that the contract I was giving first from CMC. It was text file at grid point. So now we can add every day or take out every day, add new data this way. And then again, there's a window task scheduler to run a job that open an Excel file. The Excel file simply with the macro simply grab the data. So it's all the wind farm, we have all the wind at all the time. And after that, in Excel, we have the sum for depending if they want by state, by region, sub-region, because they sometimes they look at the congestion from one point to the other to know that if there's too much energy on one side to the other. So we can give into file to the trader the wind production at different place, depending on their need. And so this is zone, state, or market grouping. And then in Excel, we have the graphic, and we have the macro. We'll save the graphic on a PDF file. And the macro also, after that, will send email either to the trader or to me or to... So they can view forecasts different way. And all the forecasts are archived. The raw data and the data that have been changed by linear regression. And after that, we keep the data to do statistics and see which model are better, which perform better. We also take the American model, and if the Canadian model is late, or because it's the tâche scheduler work with the date, the forecast will be done with American model data, but manually we can restart the job and get the Canadian model instead. So this is while we look at the high resolution, the GRIB East for the high resolution model for a few wind farm, but we use the global for a lot of wind farms. So this is the side that we cover. So it's quite a lot of wind farm for which we forecast, but it's all done automatically, basically. So, then we also do solar. Solar become the most mainly important. So we do the same for solar forecast. And for solar forecast, we look at the downward incident radiation. So we have the radiation on a flat surface. And this is what we calibrate. We use to calibrate with what the solar energy farm are producing. So it's exactly the same procedure except for the solar. Solar farm, there's not that much, but what is becoming more and more popular, what's in the United States, it's the behind the meter solar forecast. It's people are installing at their homes some solar panel. Here in Quebec doesn't make sense because the energy price is still so low, but in the United States the price is about 2 or 3 times higher than here in Quebec, and also the solar panel are subsidized, and it's also greener to use solar panel than to use some gas or coal energy. So there's a lot of people do that, and it starts to be quite important. In New England, it's about 2,000 megawatt out of their 25, and in there's other, so it's about sometimes go up to 10% of the total load. And in California, where we're not now, but it's even higher than that. So, this doesn't reflect as a seller of energy. It's more the people who have the panel, they will consume less energy. So the forecast of that become used in our load forecast, where it decrease the load when there's sun. And however, the problem is to know exactly what's the real value, because there's no monitoring of that. We don't. Well, there's some right now, some company in the state install panel, and they install it cheaper if the user allow them to view their data, and then they sell that data to the people who would pay for it. But right now we're not using that. What we use in our load forecast, it's the forecast, the latest forecast that we got from the data from CMC. And we use the day one forecast in the past to know what was the contribution of the solar at that time. But there's some project with AREC, which is the research part of Hydro-Québec, to really know what was the real radiation on a specific place at each hour of the day, to better know what was the solar radiation. Because right now we're using forecasts for that. And yeah. So this is where we get some forecasts in the region of interest. For that we only look at NEPOL, PGM, New York, and MISO, and to know exactly where there are solar panel in individual home. We don't know. The good thing it's the government give a 30% credit in the state to promote that. So to know exactly where they are located, there's a database of those who receive the tax credit. So we know the postal code of each installation. So we look at each county. We know at each county how much there is installed. There's wind panel installed. So we take the grid from CMC. We interpolate it to the center of each county there, and each county we know how much is installed. So this is how we do the forecast. It's the grid interpolates on the center of each county, and each county we add them up in our Excel file, and so we have it for the pool. We can have it by state. We can have it, but it's our solar energy forecast. Yeah, look. So, and it's really not well distributed. This is from NIPOL, and you see that there's almost nothing in Maine, and there's more in the populated area of Massachusetts. While in fact, the different states have different policies, especially for rebuying the solar energy. Some will pay it at the price that people will use their energy, others will rebuy it at lower price. So each state has different policy, and it really shows on the map of state by state how much of that energy there is. But basically, it's what we use is really the Datamart data of solar energy. There's some case that there was unexpected, well, more or less unexpected when solar energy, and we found a case where the price went negative. So there was too much energy available at that time that the pool was paying us to take their energy. That occurs more often in California, where there's a lot more solar energy. And even it's occurred also with the power plant when there was like a big heat, the nuclear power take 3 days to start, 3 days to finish. So sometime at the night, there was so much power that they were paying us to take their power to balance their energy. So there's negative pricing in the energy market. It's strange, but it's good when your energy is by the dam. You just stop production of the dam and you take this energy and you get money for it. So there's some case that using the prediction make it really good. This was our forecast here, and the pool forecast at this time they were not doing their load forecast. Right now they're doing it. They incorporate their NIPOL are incorporating the solar forecast behind the meter, but it helped us doing some forecasts. We also archive the long range forecast, but that's not related to. That's not related to the Datamart. And just because when you come here, you say Hydro-Québec. So there's a lot of other group, Hydro-Québec, that look at weather. There's in production, there's a group that is responsible for the dam management, the river. And those, they use the Datamart. They look at from 1 to 50, daily, 150 day, they look at max temperature and precipitation to make the planification of the water in the dam. And they also, once a week, they look at the 30 days, and they found they found it useful. There's a group, there's a guy here from distribution, and distribution, they also, they do the forecast of the wind farm for the Quebec sector. And they have all the data, hourly data at each part, so they do even a more detailed job than what I do, because they have to balance every hour, and when they get error in the forecast, they're charged by the megawatt that they get wrong. So and they will do research associated with RPN or to help the forecast, especially for the water the water that's stuck icing, yeah. Okay, they do research icing, and probably when they will, I don't know if they will publish or not, but there might be some, might suggest some field to add on the Datamart after that. There's also there's another group with TransÉnergie. Those are responsible. They forecast the Quebec demand. I forecast the outside, but they forecast for Quebec. And this forecast is quite important for us because it tells us what energy we have to sell. And if they're wrong, if there's the forecast too low, we might have to buy in real time, which can be higher. Or if they forecast too high, there's energy we could have sold that we didn't sell. So it's the forecast is quite important. And they're also responsible of power line. Right now, they get the data from CMC also they get point data prepared by CMC to help them do that. But right now, they're more archiving than using this data. And there's also IREC, which is the research group. And they will get some grid, and they're working right now. There's a big project from using AI to help the forecast demand. And there's also a group that's working with most of us to try to get the real radiation on the ground, and they will do the analysis with the GOES data, and I think they will go to CMC to get the data rather than get it directly from GOES. They found it simpler to go through CMC to get it. So yeah, this is.
Merci Pierre. Thanks Pierre for this introduction to the energy market. Are there any questions for, maybe you can start by going at the microphone behind you.
Vous faites la vérification de plusieurs modèles numériques. Est-ce qu'il y a un modèle qui ressort plus souvent que les autres ayant une meilleure performance?
Ouais, ben le modèle européen est un peu mieux, voilà, mais c'est pas tous les cas, puis c'est pas tout le temps. C'est utile d'avoir le modèle canadien aussi, puis en fait le modèle canadien il va mieux que le modèle américain, mais en tout cas, ben, surtout pour le court terme, pour les éoliennes et le solaire, j'aime mieux le modèle canadien que le modèle américain, mais pour le long terme, c'est le modèle européen qui performe le mieux. Là.
OK. Puis j'avais juste une autre question. Est-ce que vous apportez des modifications aux prévisions brutes?
Oui. Okay. En fait, on apporte des vérifications, mais c'est assez minime pour les températures. Où ce que ça fait une grosse différence, c'est la prévision de le load forecast, la prévision de la demande. En tout cas, si je fais des vérifications, quand il y a un ajustement manuel, ça paraît. Prévision de température, c'est assez petit, l'amélioration. Mais, ouais.
C'est bon, merci.
David?
I was wondering if you guys are very happy with your wind forecast, wind farm forecast output forecast, wind farm output forecast, because there's some papers that went out where they use neural networks to do so. So I was wondering if there's an interest on your end, or if you're already very happy with your wind farm output forecast.
I know it's we can do better, but I know I could do better just by spending more time doing more but for our need, it's okay because it's generally the day ahead, and what the trader wants, it's windy, average or not, and it's the real fine detail. It's not that important, except it's when there's a big error. That's what they want to know, like when you're totally off the field. It's not yeah, it's big error are important, but the fine resolution, it's more. But for distribution, the fine because those who are responsible for Quebec equilibration of this is more important. They forecast like 1 or 2 hours in advance. But for us, we do forecast 1 or 2 3 hours, but it's the next day. It's not that important.
Une autre question? Oh, là-bas. Chaba, si tu veux venir au micro.
Hello, my name is Mashtaba Saim. I have actually 3 questions. 2 are simple, yes or no, and then there's another one. The first question is that do you take into account urban context in your demand forecast? The second question is...
the first, I can...
For example, if you have buildings in certain orientations in one city and the other in another orientation.
Okay, not at all. Okay, now what we do, we do the demand for the very large area, and we have the part of the demand that is we don't understand. There's a part that is the weather and the day of the week, but the part that we don't understand, we take average of the last 15 days. So this kind of take into account what we don't understand. However, in our input from to do the forecast, we look at the sun angle, and if there's cloud at that time, so the orientation of the building of all over the place will appear slightly in the statistic, but it's not done in detail. It's not forecasting for a specific building. It's forecasting on a very large area. So we don't yeah. Even for the wind farm, I start to try to look at the orientation of the panel and to see how it's interact, calculating the angle. And I didn't got anything better than using just a regression with the sun that goes a different angle. And part of that is the solar panel are so cheap that they put a lot of solar panel, and there's more solar panel than to produce energy. From the solar panel, you have some inverter, and what limit the cost is the cost of the inverter. So they have a certain amount of inverter, a certain amount of solar panel, but there's too much solar panel. So what the curve, instead of doing a nice curve that go up and down like the sun, it make a curve that go bang up, because you have enough. As soon as there's sun, so the curve are not exactly as calculating directly the angle would give.
Okay. And the second question is that on the Datamart, there is albedo variable available. The albedo layer is available,
Albedo?
which take for reflections. And is it something that might be of interest?
What we use, it's the total. We use the direct, the field we're using. It's the total radiation, so it's the direct plus the reflected. So this should be included in that field. And if we want to go to more in detail, we would need to have the data like the direct radiation distinct from the reflect radiation. And when we were getting the data by point, we were getting the two separately. And it was the instant flux. Right now, we have the 1 hour accumulation of flux, so we have to do every hour and do the subtraction. And if there's an hour missing, it makes us problems. Except there's not often data missing, though.
My third question and which might be more interesting, is that is there any open data set from Hydro-Québec in, like, for example, hourly data or like shorter time periods available to the public?
I don't even know, but it's not an open market, Hydro-Québec locally, so that, and before there was, I know there was nothing before. Right now it started to get more open, but I really don't know what is public or not. But the number I give, like what we sell during the year, this isn't, it's public. There's a report done every year. But the data in real time, like the energy consumption, what we have to be able to sell in the United States, we have to be distinct than those who do that prediction. And the prediction that they give, everything that we get from them has to be available to the other people who can bid in the United States. And even our phone are taped, so to make sure we don't have information from them that it's not put on the website. But I'm not sure if that is public to everybody, or it's only public to those who have the right to sell in the United States. So that I couldn't answer.
Okay, thank you very much.
Merci, Majaba. On va continuer, si vous voulez bien. Merci. Merci encore, Pierre. Two comments before we continue with our next presenter. The first one being historic. Pierre explained that in 2005, we were producing and selling them under a cost recovery policy the data he needed. So between 2005 and 2010, more or less, we get out of this cost recovery service by streamlining our data. So people like Hydro-Québec Enterprise has to download the data and do the process and prepare the data on their own on their side. So that permitted for us to serve a lot more clients with less resources. That's why you're here today, and it was the beginning of the open data at MSC, and I think Hydro-Québec is a good example. So when they need a change right now, they use their own internal resources instead of calling us, sending an email, asking a script to be updated, and us sending a bill of $200 or $300.